Forget the 2025 draft class for just a second. Let's talk about how the 2024 draft class can help the 2025 Green Bay Packers win the Super Bowl.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast to iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. You will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how, thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Most rookies are bad. If you've listened to this podcast for more than like 14 minutes in your whole life, you know that I believe that, and you know that I think it is an important way to evaluate rookie contributions. And we do this show. This is at least the third, if not the fourth year we have done this exact show. And the reason why I do it every year is because it is more likely that the players from the 2024 draft class impact the winning of the Green Bay Packers in a material way than the 2025 draft class. And that's not to get you less excited about the draft. It's not about that. The reality is the biggest jump, and this is over the course of history, the biggest jump a player makes in his NFL career from one year to the next is from year 1 to year 2. And the reasons for that are myriad. Starting with, they understand what the expectations of the NFL are. They understand now what works and what doesn't for them as a practice player, as a study player, as a film review player. And they just have a better handle. Remember your first job. It took a while for you to get acclimated to being an adult, to being not in college anymore. And for as much as, things are scripted and structured for NFL players, they still have to go home. They still have to pay their cell phone bills and their water bills and their car, and they have to deal with insurance and all these things that were maybe taken care of in a different way before that. And by the way, when you're in college and you're a professional, or not a professional athlete, but though maybe the lines are being blurred now with name, image, and likeness, you didn't need a car because your campus housing was near where you practiced, which was near where you ate, and you probably ate at the facility 2 to 3 times. And the clothes were provided for you. If those of you who have been in college at major college programs, if you ever saw a basketball player or a football player or a baseball player out on campus, what were they wearing? They were wearing team gear, always. And the world changes. Your life changes. And when we had Alan Lazard on the show, this is, 2022 now, right? No, before that, 2019. It was a long time ago now. My goodness. I've been doing this for a long time now. He talked about 2018. Anyway, it was after his first year in Green Bay. And he talked about just like dealing with life. Oh, I got to find a new apartment. I got to make sure that, all my stuff is taken care of. Adult stuff. You remember if you're an adult. So there's an acclimation process here. Now, the offensive class from 2024, it's not the sexiest group, but they could still have a real impact on this team in 2025, starting with Jordan Morgan, because Jordan Morgan could be the starting left tackle for the Green Bay Packers. He is going to compete to be the starting left tackle. And whether he is or he isn't, he is a good enough player, at least by the Packers standards, to be rotating in as a rookie. Played only in 6 games, started 1 because of injury, 46% of snaps in those 6 games. Nearly half the time He was out there. They were giving Jordan Morgan every opportunity to try and win that right guard job. And Sean Ryan played well enough to keep him at bay. But they think enough of Morgan to now, even after that happened, to give him the opportunity to go win the most important job on the offensive line, to go win that job. They're giving him that chance. And I would assume if he doesn't win that job, he will be given every opportunity to win the right guard job as well. And that he will probably rotate in the preseason. And if he doesn't win that left tackle job, he will just go back to rotating with Sean Ryan until either he wins that job or Sean Ryan clearly defeats him in that right guard job. And in which case, we're going to have some shows to do here. I'll tell you that. But even if, forgetting the capital that has been spent on Jordan Morgan for the moment, even if he doesn't win the left tackle job, Rasheed Walker is a good player. Even if he doesn't win the right guard job, Sean Ryan has become a good player. Even if he's just a guy who just barely loses to those two players. Again, we need to separate the first round value piece of this. That would make that a bad selection, okay? Let's just make that unequivocal. If that's all Jordan Morgan is, it's a bad pick. But had Jordan Morgan been on this team in 2024, they have a significantly better chance to beat the Philadelphia Eagles because he can step right in for Elton Jenkins. And that makes life exponentially easier because Travis Glover, who ends up going in there, was a, didn't cover himself in glory. And that is a draft pick from last year. I don't know that we can expect anything more from Travis Glover than to just be a borderline NFL player. 6th round pick from Georgia State. That is looking more and more just sort of like a wasted pick. Michael Pratt not even on this team anymore. So those are just done. Nice swings, probably just done. But Jordan Morgan can help this team even if he doesn't start for the Packers by being critical depth. Anthony Belton, same deal. We can adjudicate the value of the picks at a later date. They can be very valuable to this team this year as backup offensive linemen if that is all they are. And if they win those jobs, if Jordan Morgan wins the left tackle job, then Rasheed Walker becomes the swing tackle and you've got the single best swing tackle in the NFL. If Jordan Morgan wins the right guard job, then you've got probably the single best swing interior offensive lineman in the NFL. And if you win neither of those jobs, but just barely, let's say, then again, you probably have one of the best backup offensive linemen in the NFL, and that's before you even incorporate Anthony Belton. So you are creating remarkable depth. Now, when I asked Evan Williams about the player he thought could elevate this Packers offense the most in or just the Packers team in 2024, the first name that he mentioned was Marshawn Lloyd. And Marshawn Lloyd barely played last year, played in one game, and had 7 touches in just that one game. There is going to be a role for Marshawn Lloyd, and it is going to be a big one. The Packers, it is easy to forget now how important it seemed like he would be to this offense last year. That the team, I mean, you heard Adam Stenavich, you heard Matt LaFleur, they raved about what they could get from Marshawn Lloyd. They raved about it. I'm sorry for hitting the microphone. I'm trying to be professional about it, but I feel like I have to mention it. If you're on YouTube, you probably didn't hear it. If you're on your headphones, you probably just fell off your Peloton or whatever because you're like, what just happened? This run game needs explosiveness, and it's easy to forget now, I think, how much Emmanuel Wilson, Chris Brooks, these backup running backs were involved in real games for the Packers. Like, remember that early drive against the Lions in the rain at Lambeau Field, it's third and medium, and you throw a check down that would have been a walk-in touchdown to Chris Brooks. Well, if that's Marshawn Lloyd, by the way, that should have been Josh Jacobs, but if that's Marshawn Lloyd, maybe he makes that play. Those are the opportunities that you're missing. And then there are plays I think Chris Brooks makes, or Josh Jacobs or Emmanuel Wilson, where you go, well, if that had been Marshawn Lloyd, he might house that. We talked about matchup proofing this offense. And if you're going to play too high, the Packers have to be able to run you out of that. And if you're going to play single high, the Packers have to be able to throw you out of that. Well, Marshawn Lloyd's ability to make people miss, to create chunk runs, to be able to stay balanced and remain explosive is a hallmark of every great offense in the NFL right now. That really is the hallmark of today's offense. This isn't even just a couple years ago when it's throw it 70% of the time and let's go. The Peyton Manning, the late career Tom Brady, the Aaron Rodgers. That's not what is winning right now. It's the Jalen Hurtses. It's the Jared Goffs. It's even the Tua Tagovailoas, where you're the Brock Purdy's, the Jimmy Garoppolos, where you can stay balanced. And the reason you can stay balanced, what do all of those teams have in common? They have running backs who can create explosives, run games that can create explosives. Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, Christian McCaffrey. If you can do that, you can be so good as an offense. And Marshawn Lloyd is a piece of that. The Packers, without him, really just don't have. Now, defensively, we saw this team get an enormous amount from this group of rookies, this 2024 class. I don't think it's too much to say that this 2024 class could take this defense to the true upper echelon, the truly elite level this season. We'll talk about that next on Locked On Packers. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you're extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Plus, posting a job is free and simple. Within a day, you can get multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork, UPWORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. We have to start with this rookie class from 2024, no longer rookies, rising sophomores, with Edin Cooper, because we were screaming on this show, insisting that Edin Cooper needed to be out there more. And we went through all the gaudy statistics of these are the players, the tackles for losses and all that stuff. Edin Cooper is in historic territory with what he did. And the fact that he did it in limited snaps. I mean, you're talking about a player who only played 55% of defensive snaps last year. Only started 4 games, only played in 14 regular season games. Right now, today in the NFL, Fred Warner tilts the field for the 49ers. Based on last season at least, because Roquan Smith in 2023 was incredible. But last year, I think you can make the case the only off-ball linebacker in the entire league that truly tilted the field for their team was Fred Warner. And in any given year, there are really only ever in the modern NFL 3, at most 5, or thereabouts, linebackers And everyone's playing at least 2 stacked linebackers on a given play. Most of the time. Dime, you're only playing 1. But there are only 3 to 5 in a good year off-ball linebackers who can truly, and I mean truly, tilt the field. Edin Cooper has the potential to be one of those players. And I don't say that lightly because frankly, I've never valued that position that much, specifically because if you are not in that tiny, tiny group of players who truly tilt the field for your defense, you are in an enormous group of players who are important so long as they're not terrible. And then if they're terrible, they're important for a different reason. And Edin Cooper can be one of those 3, one of those 5, one of those 2. Like if we finished the regular season this year and you told me, Edin Cooper, stay with me on this. If we finished the year and you told me Edin Cooper was the best off-ball linebacker in the NFL, I would not think that was a crazy outcome. Do I think that he is going to pass Fred Warner this year? Fred Warner is 28, going to be 29 this year. He's still really, really good. Fred Warner is still really, really, really good. So I would say it's not likely, but that's how good Edin Cooper can be. And so if he's just the guy we saw last year for 17 games, it's hugely impactful if he's playing 70, 80% of snaps, and he should be playing 100% of snaps when he's out there. Assuming he's healthy, it should be him and Quay Walker should just be the dudes. And if you go from 55% of snaps to 85, 90% of snaps, there's going to be some times you take off because you're gassed or because you're hurt. Like if you get that version of Edin Cooper, that is a hugely impactful part of your team. Javon Bullard is similar in that he played 81% of snaps last year for the Packers and was up and down. Played in 11 games, played in 15 games, started 11. He went into the year as the starting safety next to Xavier McKinney. It wasn't until Jaire Alexander got hurt that they moved Bullard to the slot. He was up and down as a slot defender. And I thought, frankly, Evan Williams was the better safety once we saw Evan Williams on the field, but that the best version of this defense included Javon Bullard. I think a full off season where you're going to give Bullard the opportunity to go, hey, this is your role in the defense. I think he added a little bit of weight to play safety in the NFL. I think he may drop a little bit of that to stay in the nickel. And I saw a player at Georgia explosive enough. I was saying this as soon as they drafted him. His best position to me is as a nickel defender. And it's not just because he's a good corner as a cover man from the nickel. He is a force run defender, and you have to be able, in this Jeff Hafley defense, it's why I was telling anyone who would listen, they're not going to take corners who don't tackle, at least not early in the draft, because you have to be able to defend the run from the cornerback position in this defense to make it work. So he does that. If he takes a step forward, and he was, like, again, an inconsistent player last year. All the Pro Football Focus numbers actually, frankly, did not like his work. I thought he was better than PFF did, but I don't think he was like a well above average player by any means. But I do think he is capable of doing that. Now, if he's not, you have Nate Hobbs, you have Keyshawn Nixon, you have guys who can play the slot. I don't think he is important this year as he was last year. When you're dealing with the injuries, you got to move Keyshawn Nixon. You don't know what you're getting there. You know what you're getting from Eric Stokes, and it's not great. And Carrington Valentine kind of up and down, and you're hurting your depth there. Now you have better depth. We'll see the future of Jaire Alexander. We're going to close out talking about that, but it's just not as vital this year. And so if you're getting a quality player, a starting caliber player, it's because he's outplaying some of these other guys. You're going, okay, you can stave off having to play Nate Hobbs there. That means you're getting a good player. That's really helpful for the Packers. But then Evan Williams, and this is the tandem to that, is his ability with Xavier McKinney to defend the middle of the field, the deep part of teams just stopped throwing. Teams just stopped throwing at them. They stopped trying to push the ball vertically because one of those guys, sometimes two of those guys, were back there and it was just too dangerous to do it. And I think, look, I don't know that Evan Williams is ever going to be Ed Reed or Troy Polamalu. Okay. He can be a really, really good, really, really impactful defender for the Packers. And he can help you win a Super Bowl. As an impact defender, he is absolutely someone capable of being an impact defender on this team. And I know he's going to work for it. I know he's going to study for it. I know he's going to get better this year. The rest of the guys, I don't know that you should expect anything from Tyron Hopper. They re-signed Isaiah McDuffie. They brought in Isaiah Simmons. I don't know what to tell you about Tyron Hopper. He's a project, a special teams player for now. That's where he is. They gave him some reps. There was some good. He played 18% of defensive snaps last year. Mixed bag. Keaton Oladapo, same kind of thing. He was really a special teams player last year. Played in 9 games for them. Did get out there on the defense a little bit thanks to injury. I don't know that he's going to change your life, but if he's a useful special teams player, that's useful. And anything you get from either of those guys is pure upside because of the way this team is constructed. Now, speaking of anything you get being pure upside, Jaire Alexander. We heard from Matt LaFleur. We have to talk about it. That's next on Locked On Packers. Thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Scouting. The NFL draft is over, but the roster moves and news never stop. Host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. I promise we are not going to do as the Jaire Alexander turns. We're not going to do that. But we are going to do it today because, let me justify this to you before you turn it off. Matt LaFleur spoke, gave no update. It was the update is there's no update. Said Jaire Alexander is not going to be or was not expected to be at offseason work, but had been, and LaFleur confirmed this, doing the virtual meetings and those kinds of things. I don't know that this changes anything, but the tone that Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur struck did not sound like the tone that was coming from, say, the reports from Albert Breer, that the most likely outcome was that he comes back, incentives in the salary. We talked about this last week. That's interesting to me because what that suggests to me is that the source from, let's say, some of the reporting is coming from the agent, because what the agent would like is to not get cut, because if they get cut, what they have to admit is no one is going to give him that much money. And they want the money. So you got to renegotiate this salary. Say, hey, we're willing to take a pay cut. Come, let's talk to it. Come talk to us. We'll take this pay cut. There is no incentive for the Packers or for Jaire Alexander for him to be there in person, though. So I don't want anyone to take too much away from him not being there in person. If he's going to go through the virtual work, remember he was working out with Xavier McKinney. We saw that on the gram. Participating in meetings. Would not be the first time he did not come to off-season workouts. If he gets hurt, any potential trade is over. Any potential negotiation is scuttled. So it doesn't make sense for Jaire Alexander to go work on the Packers' dime anyway. I know he's got workout bonuses and stuff tied to that. He's made enough money that it doesn't seem like it's going to be a motivator for him. And certainly he would rather eat the workout bonuses. You could even negotiate in, hey, look, this was agreed upon for everybody that you're not going to work out. We'll make sure this money gets back in somehow and you'll be made whole, because we know that if this wasn't happening, you would be here, which maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't, right? But there's no reason for him to be at these workouts because there's no upside, really. He's not getting better. There's not some young corner to mentor. Now, there are young receivers to go up against, but there's no live reps. Maybe he shows up to mandatory minicamp. I would be surprised. And you would expect that by training camp, when it really matters, there will be some resolution one way or another. He will either be back on a reduced contract or he will be gone. So the no update is the update. Seems kind of lame that's where we are, but it also makes sense. And it's lame from just a fan standpoint. Like, you want a resolution. You want it to just be over. Well, this is going to take time, especially if they're negotiating new language, if they're negotiating what the contract is going to be, that stuff. Again, I think it's interesting. The team is posturing like, yeah, we'll figure it out when we figure it out. Whereas in the media, we're getting the like, hey, well, he might want to come back. He might be back. Like, it might take less money. They don't want to posture that too hard, because then the Packers can go, hey, look, let's really, dig this in here. I don't think Green Bay benefits from that either. They're better off with Jaire Alexander this year. On the field, anyway. They have to make the decision if they think that they are better off, not just off the field, but in the locker room, culturally, those kinds of things. They did go out and sign a corner who can play inside out. They like Keyshawn Nixon. They like Carrington Valentine. They like Javon Bullard. So I'm sure that they feel like, look, whatever happens, happens. I don't know if I would feel that way if I were the Packers, but that seems to have been their posture here. This update is a non-update, but that in itself is an update. He's still on the team, technically, and it doesn't make sense for him to be at workouts, so he's not there. We talked about it. We will not talk about it unless there's real updates here or real reporting around what's going on. I promise we're not just going to talk about it to talk about it. We could have led the show with it, and I could have made it the headline, and we could have done the clickbait thing. We didn't do that. I try not to do that anyway. At least not solely for the sake of clickbait. Like, sometimes the talky story is the story. Like, that's the whole thing, is we're going to talk about the big story. This, at least for the moment, is not that. But we're back tomorrow, with much more to come here on Locked On Packers. I'll try not to hit the microphone. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski, Blue Sky. Also their Instagram. Wherever you find podcasts, you find Locked On Packers. Go subscribe there. Subscribe on our YouTube page if you want to watch us, so you can stay Locked On Packers.